Hello everyone, my name is Kitetsu and welcome back to my channel. Again, thank you so much for all the support that you guys have been giving me recently. I can't believe how much I have been getting. It's been absolutely incredible. Keep it coming. It makes me so motivated to just get on here and talk to you guys. But I've really been enjoying covering this new edition. There's a bit of time where I was thinking there hasn't actually been that much news in a while that's really exciting. And now there's just tons of it. So this is brilliant. But yeah, basically the Stormcast stuff was exciting, but I was far more excited about the Night Haunts. They were easily my favourite thing from Warhammer Fest, and we've got a faction focus article on the Warhammer community site, so I thought I would just make a quick video running you guys through it and seeing what else we can find out about this fantastic faction. So the first thing is it tells us a little bit about who they are, and when I say a little bit I mean basically nothing. It basically says that when the folk of the mortal realms die, they can end up in one of three places. Their souls can either go to Sigmar if they're kind of noble and just. If they're particularly evil and cruel, they end up with chaos. And if they're cowardly, fearful, or maybe just somewhere in the middle of being good and evil, these spirits end up trapped by Nagash, and that is exactly what the Night Haunts are. Whilst I'm here looking at this picture as well, just look at how stunning they look as an army when they're all put together. I really just can't wait to get my hands on these models because they look so damn good. I mentioned in the last video, I've never collected a death army and I know very little about them, so some of the stuff I read here will not be news to all of you, but for the rest of us, I'm kind of learning at the same time as you are. And the first thing I found absolutely astonishing about this army, knowing nothing about the Night Haunts, is that they basically more or less all have a 4-up save and they completely ignore rend. That means they basically have Stormcast armor that ignores rend. That's absolutely incredible. It says here that even Galmaraz itself will struggle to displace a spirit host. I was looking at the war scroll for spirit hosts and they do indeed have the 4+ save and the ethereal ability that ignores any rend basically, and they also have a frightful touch ability that gives them mortal wounds on a 6 to hit, and seeing as they do 6 attacks, they're statistically guaranteed to make a mortal wound every time they attack. And the Night Haunts also have extremely high bravery, all tend to move quite fast and can also fly, so it's all pretty exciting stuff. So this here is saying that the mortal wounds are quite easy to dish out with the Night Haunts, and we seem to be seeing a little bit of almost power creep in the latest Battletomes in terms of dealing mortal wounds, because that seems to be the latest buzzword for all of these new factions. Next they give a player perspective from Tyler Mengel, who's a golden demon winning painter, and I'm not going to dwell on that too much because all of the advice he says, while it's really sound, it's relating to the army as it stands at the moment, not necessarily where it's going, but it was interesting to read nonetheless. And he was the one who pointed out to me that they have this 4+ save that can't be modified, so that was pretty insightful. He obviously loves the Hex Wraiths as well, but to be honest, I'm a little bit more excited about the new cavalry unit that's coming out. And obviously the other thing he says that's very interesting is the fact that it's very easy to build up a quick 1000 point army if you're a complete beginner to Age of Sigmar, so that's great. And the other massive bonus, which applies probably to all of us whether we're veterans or not, is the fact that they can actually be painted very quickly. And if any of your guys' backlogs are the same as mine, then it certainly makes me feel a little bit less guilty about collecting yet another faction, as if the 12 or so others I collect is not enough. Just knowing that I can paint them nice and quickly and have them ready to play. But yeah, this is the fun part. This is where we find out a bit more about the actual units, because in the last video I didn't even know what half of them were called. The basic battle line option are the Chain Rasp Hordes, and one thing that I absolutely love about these is all of these ball and chains and manacles covered all over them. These are like your everyday spirits that have just come from the ordinary folk of the realms. But to be honest, we don't find out too much about them apart from the fact that obviously all of these chains and stuff represent their enslavement to Nagash. But as a battle line unit, they do look really cool. Next we find out about the Glaive Wraith Stalkers, and I'm mortified to find out that they are not undead Skaven. They were basically people who would hunt other people for sport and pleasure in their previous lives, and now Nagash has decided to turn them into these horrible deformed beings who are basically playing the same role in the afterlife as they did in their previous life, and that's basically to drift slowly and unstoppably towards their quarry. worry, pursuing them for months or maybe even years if they have to. I don't know why, but they seem to remind me an awful lot of Boos from Mario. I've just got that impression of every time you look at them, they're slowly making their way towards you, but I think that's kind of the general gist of their models, is basically they see something and then they just make a beeline towards it with these massive spears. Cool models nonetheless. I wish they were Undead Skaven though, that would have been far cooler. Next we find out about these awesome figures, and I must admit they're really growing on me now that I know a bit about their lore. These are the Grimghast Reapers, and they were basically the trickier people in life, like the assassins and the schemers, and what Nagash has done to them is basically blinded them and whipped them up into a frenzy, so that almost like a possessed demon, they just charge across the battlefield, slashing at anything they see. And although it's detrimental to your army, I'm actually hoping there's something in their rules about the fact that they will attack any Nighthaunt models that are close to them too, just because it would fit so well with the lore around them. Next we've got the Executioner. In fact, he's called the Lord Executioner, and in the past life he was of course an executioner. Whether he was someone who would behead people or whether he was a hangman, I guess you can have both types. But these were people who enjoyed their job just a little bit too much, and as such Nagash thought, hey, we've got something in common here. You like killing people, so do I. You sound perfect. I'm gonna put you to good use. Again, especially with that Executioner's hood, they look like one of my absolute favourite models in the army. I just really hope they're like not gonna break, and I mentioned that in the last video, but it still stands. Finally, down to the last two, we've got the Guardian of Souls, and this is the Wizard of the Nighthaunts army. And again, just look how good that lantern looks. At first I thought maybe they would play a role a little bit like the dead marshes in Lord of the Rings, where they're attracting people, misguiding them and luring them to their death, but it seems they're actually more of a buff and a guide for your own units. But they do look particularly cool, and I absolutely love that mask. It looks so evil. But yeah, then we get to look at the new Knight of Shrouds, and let's just take a moment to appreciate how fantastic this sculpt is. Even if I wasn't going to collect Nighthaunts, which I am, I would buy this model just because it looks so good. Models that look like this are the reason that I am in this hobby. It looks incredible. In fact, it's not just the models, I love the lore as well, but just look how good it looks. I can't wait to get one of these. I don't quite understand how they've managed to pull off such a good sculpt here, but it really does look incredible. I just hope it's not going to be too expensive, because I need one of these. If you think the current Knight of Shrouds is already £20, I'm a bit concerned they might charge too much for it. But then again, the Achillean Kings were only about 25, so I guess there's hope. But yeah, basically all it says about this is it's the perfect hero for keeping up with your Hex Wraiths or any other fast moving Nighthaunt units that might be on the way, and we already know there's cavalry coming, so that's pretty cool. But this is the last thing we see in the article, and I will finish up quite quickly just talking about this. It is the first war scroll we get to see from this army, and for those of you who don't remember, it is this model here from the video, and there was the better look at him. He is a Spirit Torment, and we've had the Executioner, we've had the Assassins, all sorts of backstories. Well, these were the Jailers. Basically, they have these magic padlocks that they can trap souls with, so that's pretty cool. Again, they've got the 4+ save, they move quickly, really high bravery. They might not be affected by rend thanks to their ethereal ability, but they can dish it out, which is very cool. And their stat line is decent. It's nothing to go absolutely crazy about, but it's their abilities that are very exciting. First of all, they have the captured soul energy ability, and this lets you do one of two things. Firstly, you can choose to heal units that are nearby, or secondly, you can bring models back from the dead, which fits perfectly with them being the Nighthaunts, of course. But basically, if you kill 3 or more models in the turn, then in the battle shock phase, they can either heal D3 wounds to a unit that's within 6 inches of the model, and that becomes a flat 3 wounds if they were Stormcast that were slain, or you can return models instead. And the cool thing here is you can actually return multi-wound models too. So if you have any models that were up to 3 wounds, you can return one of those instead, so that's very cool. The last thing we know about them is the fact that they have Nagash's Bidding, which is like a area buff, and I'm a huge fan of rules like that because it lets all friendly Nighthaunts reroll hit rolls of 1 within 12 inches. So that's very cool. The interesting thing about this War Scroll, apart from the fact they've shown us the full thing, which is very uncharacteristic of the community team, we normally get like a bit of the stat line or a snippet of their abilities. The cool thing is that this looks like it could be the new format of War Scrolls for the new edition. I mean, this is going to be one of the first brand new sort of updated armies from 2nd edition, so it makes sense that this is the new format. And this tells us why all of the battle tomes from the previous edition are going to be completely usable and transferable across to the new rules, because it's not actually the War Scrolls as such that are changing in terms of the game mechanics. It's going to be the actual phases of the game and stuff like that are going to be different. So to be honest, it tells us a little bit about the new edition and what we can expect. My favorite thing about the War Scroll is probably the fact that it actually has a picture on it, and of course some of the ones at the moment do, but in the battle tomes they tend to be a bit bland, and I really hope they shift to having pictures on all of them, because it's definitely more exciting. And it's also nice when they include lore on them, so hopefully they will do that for all of them now rather than just some of them. But yeah, I'm going to leave this video here before it gets too long. Thank you so much for all the support I've been getting. Don't forget to like the video, don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and hit that little bell icon so you know when my videos come out. And otherwise, I will see you guys really soon as we've got some more exciting information. Don't forget to leave me some comments down below as well, because I absolutely love reading them, and I will speak to you guys really soon.